Hi guys, I wanted to talk about punk rock for a second. And keep in mind, I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything. This is just my thought, and I feel like a lot of people don't really have the same thought, at least nowadays, and I wanted to give it out here. The thing about punk rock that is, punk was made to save rock and roll. It never had a political agenda behind it. Don't get me wrong, it can be a political at times, yes. I mean, I guess you could say you could always argue the core aspect of it was basically through big corporations, yes. That was kind of a political mindset. And the reason why I'm making this video is I always see videos debating whether or not could you be a conservative and be a punk. And keep in mind, I'm not a conservative. If people know me, they'll know I am liberal as all heck. But here's the thing. Here is the thing, people. Punk in the beginning never had politics. Or at least it didn't have much politics as rock and roll had politics. Because you want to know why? Punk is just rock and roll. It was made to say rock and roll. In fact, the only really reason about politics later on, like the Dead Kennedys and Black Flag and stuff like that, was because, I mean, they were in a political crisis at the time, yeah. But here's the thing, though. Punk was never meant to be a political. Okay, let me give you a little rundown history. Punk, believe it or not, didn't start in the 70s. It actually started way later than that. Actually, it kind of started in the 50s, if you think about it. I mean, you can go back to, like, early rock and roll and rockabilly and stuff like that, and you will see a lot of that is punk. Now, you can go to even the 60s garage genre was sort of punk. I mean, they were kind of fashion play for rock and roll sake, But, and you got bands like the New York Dolls, the Ramones, the Misfits, and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people have this narrow-mindedness of what punk is. You know, punk, it's not one decade. It's not even really a genre. It's a attitude of music. You know what I mean? Whatever is punk, it now is punk. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people don't understand this because punk was really made to say rock and roll. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I mean, the reason why the Ramones started was because, you know, rock and roll was kind of in a dire state back in the 70s, you know? Back when bands were just playing these really complicated drum solos and guitar licks, if you couldn't play unless you had, like, a mind bigger than anyone else, it seems, to play that stuff. And also, in bar bands at the time, you didn't have much. You had what you got was a bunch of Rolling Stones cover bands, basically. So, my point is, punk is not itself is a political, yes, you can put political stuff to punk, that's true, but punk has never been a political. You know, so of course you can be conservative and listen to punk. You can be liberal and listen to punk. You can be neither or and listen to punk and be a punk. You want to know why? Because punk itself never had a political mindset outside of just F corporations and also just do it yourself. I guess if I can only think of the politics of punk, that would be it. Screw corporations and do it yourself. That's about it. You know, that's the only political message out there. Okay, bye. Tell me what you think in the comments. I think it's an interesting conversation, to be honest.